I was more concerned of having an ostomy than the actual cancer. The negative stigma that I myself associated living with an ostomy to be, it actually gave me my life back in a lot of ways. I just try to let people know that it's not the end of the world. It's actually, the start of like something totally new. I was diagnosed with IBD or ulcerative colitis when I was just 15 years old. I lived with IBD for about 25 years before my colorectal cancer diagnosis.
Ulcerative colitis is an inflammatory bowel disease that causes inflammation and sores in the colon. It affects daily life and requires ongoing monitoring.
It was either like a 6 month or 1 year follow-up appointments, and then I would be on a 2 year screening with respect to colonoscopy. I had a really good relationship with my gastroenterologist. I was in a clinical trial, so I was being even more closely monitored, right? And it was still my gastroenterologist that was the primary investigator of this study. So I was in a lot of contact with her. I expressed my needs to her. The good thing that I had was that relationship where I did feel heard, I did feel seen, I was able to advocate for myself without feeling, too much.
Just before a routine colonoscopy, Nadia started experiencing new symptoms.
I was experiencing, a lot of like going to the bathroom, and there was abdominal pain and cramping. There was blood in my stool. That was like a huge red flag for me. I knew definitely that something was wrong. And, IBD is an autoimmune disease, so it affected my whole body. So I, oftentimes felt very fatigued and run down and, had body aches. So I had my colonoscopy, and then usually, you get your results back in a couple weeks, and I wasn't getting these results, and I kept calling. And unfortunately, there was an incident that happened at the actual lab where like a car drove in to the lab. So I wasn't sure if I had to like redo my colon. So then that was stressing me out even more, because I knew that the possibility was that it could have been colorectal cancer, because she did mention that to me in her findings.
Even though ulcerative colitis raises the risk of colorectal cancer, Nadia was still completely shocked.
5 weeks passed before I was able to see her. And when I did, right, my husband came with me, right? And, we were in our room where we would meet for the study. And that's when she told me, and she was very emotional when she told me. And then I was emotional, and then we hugged.
The most shocking part was having to get an ileostomy bag.
I had what was called low rectal cancer. So it was in the lowest part of the rectum. So unfortunately, from the start, I was not a person that was a candidate for a reversal. So reversal is when, they take your colon out, but they leave your rectum there. So then they can eventually maybe do a reversal or reattach your small intestine to your rectum. But I unfortunately did not fall into that category because of the location of the tumor for me. So for me, the surgery was a total proctocolectomy. So it was removing everything. And if you're familiar with the term, like the Barbie butt surgery, so that's where, they close the bum at the back. So I had both surgeries at the same time. I was super, super overwhelmed. Like I remember going into my pre-op appointment, and they had like ostomy pouches there, and like the ostomy nurse was very, very kind and helpful. She offered to like, put one on me, right? Because you have to get marked for your stoma. They measure and they do whatever they have to do. And I didn't want it at all. Like I didn't want it on me. Like my husband was there, so he was trying like, oh, like let's try. And I'm like, I like wanted nothing to do with it. It's always like the fear of the unknown. And I'm like really bad with that kind of stuff, right? Like my mind starts going a million miles a minute. And just, I'm very grateful for, my husband, who like always encouraged me, like whenever I was having like that moment, to just like say everything, say exactly what you're feeling, and we would walk through it and talk through it together. I was just in that moment grateful for, like, even though, I have to learn this whole new way of life of living with an ostomy and managing my ostomy and everything like that, I don't have to deal with, the other aspects of IBD that I had to deal with for basically more than half of my life.
Still, getting used to it didn't happen overnight.
Was a lot of like body image issues for sure, right? And there was a lot of, I remember going through my closet and like getting rid of a lot of clothing that was like tight fitting, or that I was like, oh, it shows my pouch too much, or that kind of thing. And I got rid of it all like I feel prematurely, like looking back, right? And my husband was like, you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I felt like, I needed to do that at that moment. At the end of the day, nobody would be able to tell that it's there if I didn't tell them.
Over time, Nadia grew confident enough to show her bag.
It was actually such a freeing moment for me that I just felt like I could really, like, this is me, this is myself. From there, I started sharing it more and going on vacation and being on the beach and having it out. And like, you know what I mean? This is me. I just thought that that was kind of like a bridge I needed to cross. But it's like, our response is always like, this is a life-saving procedure, right? It is, without this bag we wouldn't be here. It's taught me more of, going with the flow, living and in the moment kind of thing, right? You can't plan for everything, because that's another thing. I'm a super planner, and you can't plan for these things. I have to say, in my first year, I didn't really have that many leaks. So then when it started happening, I was like, the heck? Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that saved me, because not having those leaks happen in the beginning, like, it really made me appreciate my ostomy and not have that kind of resentment towards it.
Nadia now loves sharing her biggest tips for living with an ileostomy.
First things first is find the right ostomy appliance, and find the right fit, because that will be a game changer for you. Because once you have the right fit, it's like a reduction in leaks, it's a reduction in how it impacts your skin and all of that, right? So finding that, and really it's one day at a time. So every day is a different day. You can't focus on, like, you have feel your feelings in that moment, like you can be upset, you can be annoyed, but don't let it take over your whole day, or your whole week, or don't, because there's a lot to be grateful and thankful for. I get a lot of questions: can you go swimming, can you go in the sauna, can you travel, and can you work out? And yes, there are limitations in some things that you can do, you have to be mindful, but there's ostomy belts that you can wear. There is so many ways that you can do things. And then in terms of diet, like, there are limitations on some things I can eat, but my diet as a whole is very, very inclusive. It's like I always say, like, you wear your ostomy loud and proud, right? Because it's something that, in my personal opinion, has saved me. It has given me my life back. Like, I can do so many things that I wasn't able to do. I don't have to always worry about, being in pain all over, right? And running to the bathroom every 10 minutes kind of thing, because it really takes a toll on you physically and mentally.
As a colorectal cancer caregiver, Nadia, I thank you for sharing your story. If this story was inspiring to you, we've queued up another one for you here, a playlist here. And please make sure you subscribe here to join the patient story community. And always remember, you're not alone.